talk about renal blood supply and explain the various types of capillaries using the same diagram. So what we are talking of is renal blood supply. As we discussed that the kidneys, they receive the blood through an artery, and this artery enters, this is the renal artery. This renal artery then divides into many branches and finally into these afferent arterioles. And many such efferent arterioles later on, their branches would join to form a vein which is going to leave or which is going to take the blood from the kidney. So this would be the renal vein. So there would be blood coming in, and here obviously there are going to be the capillary networks. As we have closed circulatory system, blood never comes out of the blood vessels. So main artery, then finer branches, arterioles, then capillaries, they rejoin to form efferent and then ultimately would join to form the renal vein. And this is how the blood is going to leave. So from here the blood leaves and from here the blood enters. Now the first capillary set we have seen, the afferent arteriole comes and opens into that depression of the Bowman's capsule, divides into a set of capillaries. So this is the first set of capillaries. The first set of capillaries is glomerulus. And we know that glomerulus is a set of about 50 capillaries. This set of capillaries, the first set of capillaries, works at a higher pressure. So, and we have talked about this earlier also, why this pressure in this network is more. The reason is the blood which is coming in through a wider tube or wider artery, that is afferent arteriole, and from afferent arteriole, when suddenly it gets into thinner tubes, the pressure increases. So it is a high pressure capillary bed. It is called high pressure capillary bed. And here the pressure is about 60 millimeters of mercury. So this is the first set of the capillaries. Now let us see what happens to this efferent arteriole. Efferent arteriole is narrower. So when this efferent arteriole comes out, it divides into many branches, and these branches, they are around the proximal convoluted tubule, or in all these tubes. Here also we would find these kind of capillaries and their branches going around. This network is known as, this one, the branching which we have drawn here is called peritubular capillaries. They are finer tubes, and that is why capillaries, and as they are around the tubule part, it is known as peritubular capillary. This is the second capillary bed. So now we are talking of the second capillary bed. And this second capillary bed is made up of peritubular capillaries. Peritubular capillaries. These capillaries have blood at a lower pressure. And the reason why the pressure is low now, because after glomerulus, through efferent, they are coming into finer branches, so the pressure goes on decreasing. So these are at low pressure. So it is known as low pressure capillary bed. And here the pressure is around 13 millimeters of mercury. This number somewhere is written as 10 to 13, so approximately 13 millimeters of mercury. it is much lower as compared to the pressure that is seen in the first bed, that is glomerulus. So this is the first low pressure area. Here the pressure is more, here the pressure is low. Now what happens? In case of cortical nephrons, these peritubular capillaries would rejoin to form finally the renal vein. But in juxtamedullary nephrons, these tubes or these peritubular capillaries, they come and they make loops around the loop of Henle. So as you can see here, they are making loops around this loop of Henle. They are coiling around it, and this part is known as vasa recta. So these tubes, these are vasa recti. So what has happened is, in normal case, the glomerulus is formed, which is the first set of capillaries. It is at a higher pressure, so we call it high pressure capillary bed. Efferent arteriole takes the blood out of glomerulus. This efferent arteriole divides into very fine capillaries, and these fine capillaries, they surround the tubular part, especially PCT, DCT, which is in the cortex region. This part is known as peritubular capillaries. Reason why they are called peritubular, because they are around the tubules and it is a network of capillaries. This forms the second set of capillaries, or low pressure capillary bed, because here the pressure with which the blood is flowing through them is lower. In cortical nephrons, the peritubular capillaries would rejoin to form veins and finally would form the renal vein, and this is how the blood is going to come out. But in juxtamedullary, some peritubular capillaries, they go deeper into the medulla and surround the loop of Henle. So here we have drawn some tubes which are going around the loop of Henle, and they are making loops around it. So this part which is coiling around the loop of Henle is known as vasa recti, and that is seen in case of juxtamedullary. And finally, these vasa recti capillaries, they would rejoin to finally form the renal vein. So the difference is, in cortical nephrons, peritubular capillaries join to form, finally, we are talking about the end result, finally the renal vein. First it's going to be venules and then vein. In juxtamedullary nephrons, it is peritubular as well as vasa recti. They join to form the renal vein. So it is peritubular plus vasa recti. They join to form the renal vein. So the end thing is finally this vein through which the blood is going to come out. The only difference is which part is forming the renal vein. In cortical nephron, this part is not there. That is this vasa recti part. The tubes which are around the loop, they are not there. So this peritubular network of capillaries is there. They rejoin to form venules and finally the renal vein. In juxtamedullary nephrons, peritubular network is there. Plus, some arms, they go deeper into the medullary region and surround the loop of Henle, and that is known as vasa recti. So, peritubular rejoins to form venules, vasa recti would also rejoin to form venules, and these venules would form the renal vein, and the blood is going to come out of the kidney. So this is the actual blood supply which is taking place in the kidneys or especially in the nephrons. Now we would talk about one more simple small thing, that is how these collecting ducts, they open into these renal pyramids. So that we will take up in the next segment.